Hey there, art nerds. So, I caved. Hey there, art nerds. So, I caved. I took advantage of the Jackson's Roman Szmal's watercolor sale. We have talked about Roman Szmal's watercolors here on the channel before. I have not had a chance to do the full field test, but I did do the unboxing swatch, and I feel like they are a pretty good deal for what they are. They are apparently not made by the White Knights people and are made, I think, by a separate company in the Ukraine. I'm sure if I'm wrong, someone will fact check me on that, or you can just keep listening to the video because I am sure I will double check myself later on. But I wanted to get this package unpackaged because, as you guys can see, it is a hefty one and it does take up a fair amount of space. So I wanted to go ahead and get it broken down and off my tabletop. But typically these watercolors, which you can get through Jackson's Art, run at around $3 to $5-ish for either a half pan or a whole pan. It really varies on the series and the materials, but that is a pretty dang good price. And since we have talked so long and so much about student grade watercolors, I thought we deserve a little treat. Let's talk about some professional grade watercolors that are at a very affordable price point. Ooh, this package is like more wrapped, let me say, than I expected it to be. It's got like exterior flaps going on. They really wanted it to arrive in good form, which makes sense. It is coming from overseas, but it does make it a little bit hard to navigate on camera. So I think, good gravy, there is so much package. Let me move that, and we can finally take a look at what's inside. So we have our Roman Szmal's watercolors, and then we have the cold press watercolor sampler from Jackson's. So it is a comparison pack of 12 quarter sheets. So these would be quarter sheets off of like a full size sheet, one of the big ones of watercolor paper. This is about the size I like to work in anyway, so this works out even better. So in this pack is Arches Aquarelle 140 pound, Arches Aquarelle 300 pound, 400 pound, Saunders 140 pound, Saunders 200 pound, Saunders 300 pound, Fabriano Artistico 140 pound, 300 pound, Milford 140 pound, and then Jackson's 140, 200, and 300 pound. So this could be a good way if you are trying to figure out what papers are up your alley, what kind of watercolor paper you want to use. I love sampler packs for this reason. I think Cheap Joe's does a sampler pack as well. And back when I lived in Nashville and we had hands-on creativity, I would go and get all the paper samples I could, because this is a good way to figure out what kind of papers you like without investing in a whole pad. Another way you can do it is you can buy the full sheet and find 3 friends and just split the sheets up. So this will get used for illustrations in the future, so keep an eye out for those, of course. In fact, you can keep an eye out by following me on these social media sites. How's that for a transition? Okay, so in here should be our Roman Szmal's watercolors. What I want to do with you guys today is swatch these, talk about them a little bit, and then maybe re-swatch the colors I already have and add them to my palette. So, I've got a lot of half pans this time. I wasn't necessarily... I was looking to augment the palette I already had. I wasn't necessarily looking specifically for whole pans or half pans. The half pans are a newer addition to what they have. When I first started out getting these, they were in the whole pans, so that's what I mostly have. So we're going to take a little quick look. The whole pans seem to still be hand wrapped, seem to still have a swatch of the color on the outside, whereas the half pans kind of remind me of the Daniel Smith packaging, where we have our, oh, that's a real swatch. that is a nice little touch there. I'm such a sucker for that kind of stuff. Mwah. Very nice touch. That's a real swatch. That's watercolor paper inlaid in the packaging. I just love that kind of stuff. So the colors that I picked up, ignore the gray cat. He thinks he is hungry. He thinks he's never fed. In half pans are Mineral Violet, Phthalo Blue Green shade, Quin Magenta, this one that I probably still cannot say, and Aquarius Brown. I love that they have the pigment information right there on the back. They have, not sure what the 8 denotes, might be the series number. They have the, I'm going to have to look all of this up. That's the granulation information. So granulating, not granulating, not granulating, granulating, granulating. And then they have the opacity. So this looks like opaque, translucent, 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 semi, and semi. Then on the whole pans, we have the beautiful hand-painted belly band. I love that. We have the color number. We have the color name. So this is ocean blue. Then we have the pigment info and the same sort of info. So we have ocean blue, shadow violet light, Vivianite blue. This is a blue ochre. And I thought this was I was just so taken by the idea of a blue ochre. We have dark ochre, we have yellow ochre, and finally we have bismuth yellow. And then in this Meaden palette here, we have my OG Roman Szmal's Aquarius. So I have to peel back the sands of time and see what I've got in here. I've got them all swatched out, and I'm generally pretty good about taping the information to the backs and the sides. What I am gonna have to figure out is I need a bigger palette. Do I want to upgrade, and that's said in heavy air quotes, to my old palette that I have already beaten to heck and back? Because this will not fit in here. I don't know, I'm gonna have to do some digging. So I went digging for a bigger palette, and look what I found! My old Daily Driver palette that is still in really, really bad condition. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go soak this with some Dawn and some hot water and work on getting it cleaned up. And we are going to kind of re-swatch all of these while this is soaking. And then before I say goodbye, we'll try to pop all these back into here. So hopefully that sounds good. Hopefully we've got a bit of a glow up story for this thing here. So I'm gonna go get this soaking in some Dawn, and we can talk about these watercolors and get to swatching. So y'all know me, it has to be in chromatic order or I'm just gonna have a fit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take these out and put them in this knockoff imitation porcelain pan that I got from Temu. And then we'll unwrap these, I think, and kind of shuffle them in, and then we'll swatch everything on our Blick paper. So the colors that I already had to start out with is I started with the starter set of 5. That can be a great way to see if you like Roman Szmal's Aquarius watercolors. And on Jackson's, they're $14.33 for the set of 5. That is a really good deal for professional grade watercolors. I also purchased Scarlet Lake, Natural Sienna Monte Amiata, Transparent Oxide Yellow, Phthalo Blue Red Shade, Ocean Blue, Shadow Violet, Gray, Cyprus, Burnt Umber, and Dyck Brown. So I want to get these all unwrapped and labeled up, but I figured I would do one live with you guys since I haven't had a chance to unbox any of the half pans, and I thought it would be kind of neat to do together. So most of the information is on the back as well as an actual, so as I mentioned earlier, there is a swatch inset and it seems like it's on real watercolor paper. I can't quite figure out how to get this open without like totally decimating it, so I'm gonna go get my scissors. And if you guys can hear the thunder in the background, that just adds to the cozy ambiance. I don't know about you guys, but if I don't have a migraine during the day, I love when it's raining outside. I just love the sound of rain on our house, and I love the sound of thunder. I do have an allergic reaction though to the mold that comes before the rain, so frequently a rainstorm is preceded with a gnarly migraine, and I had a really rough migraine yesterday. So it seems like these are not, ooh, that's a little sticky, not labeled at all. They definitely look hand-filled. They've got a bit of a rustic edge to them, which I kind of like. So what I need to do, I may be super tacky and hang on to this, because I mean, it's already swatched and it has all the info on it, so I might as well. But I am going to, at the very least, label the color onto our pans. But I'm going to go ahead and do this for all of them. I am such a magpie when it comes to like nicely presented art supplies. Like, I'm just really loath to throw away packaging that can be repurposed and useful for information and identification. And I'll grant Roman Szmal this, the fact that they've got like the real swatch, and then you've got all the info that you need, the pigment, the staining properties. I guess the number would be the light fastness. I've gotten so used to seeing them denoted as like stars and asterisks that I forgot that you could just write the number down. These are a little smidgy tricky to open, not like ridiculously hard to open, but if you have some fine motor skills, might be a little bit tricky. And I always point that out because I do have early onset arthritis, and I do think that kind of accessibility is important to point out. Some people might be like, well, if you have trouble opening the packaging, what are you doing being an artist to begin with? And it's kind of ableist. But basically, kind of the point of this channel is I feel like anyone who wishes to make art can make art. And I want to enable those of you who want to pick up drawing skills, who want to make comics, who want to learn watercolor for illustration or watercolor for relaxation. I want to enable you guys to do that, sharing my own art education background, because I do have an MFA in comics, if you didn't know, and I have been teaching both comics, drawing, and watercolor. Is there a word? Both means two, and this is like a trifecta. I've been teaching a trifecta of art stuff for over 10 years now, so wanted to share that with you guys and make it just a little bit more accessible, especially because there really isn't a lot of good art content for, like, when I say beginner artists, I mean people who've been drawing but they'd like to start drawing. Oh, that one was real sticky, really sticky. They'd like to draw buildings, or they'd like to draw people, or they'd like to start making comics, or they want to start getting into illustration. So basically, like teenage artists, there's not a lot of good stuff out there for them. So, you know, just trying to help out as much as I can, trying to make a difference, because this wasn't available when I was that age, because I'm old. All right, so I need to label these with a Sharpie, and then we can move on to the whole pans. Before I do that though, I do want to show the amount of waste, since that is something I talk about pretty frequently. If you save these, for whatever reason, if you save the swatches and the pigment info, the waste is not as bad as I've seen with some. They do have a plastic coat on the front, and they do have some adhesive. This is probably a plastic coated paper, but it's not like it's in this and then wrapped again. Before I take a break and label these though, we're gonna go ahead and unwrap one of these, and I'll just kind of demonstrate what I typically like to do. It's been a while with this, so I may have forgotten, but I usually try to save as much of the packaging as I can, because it makes relabeling it a little bit easier. So I'm going to slice. Try not to slice myself, that's ever important. Slice or cut again. These are wrapped kind of like an Andes mint in a foil wrapper, and then they have a little piece of wax paper to protect the watercolor itself. I am going to gently remove this. I am going to cut this off, and then I am going to use double stick tape to apply it to the back. I don't have any handy right in this moment, so I'm gonna have to go do that. but I will be back with everything labeled. The colors I ordered from Jackson's are Bismuth Yellow, Yellow Ochre, Dark Ochre, Shadow Violet Light, Vivianite, Pthalo Blue Green Shade, Quin Magenta, Aquarius Brown, Mineral Violet, Ocean Blue, and Przybysz, I'm sure someone will have a problem with me saying it like that, Gray. All right, we've got everything unwrapped and labeled. I wanted to show you the amount of waste for the whole pans. Honestly, not bad at all. Very minimal. We've got the foil, we've got paper, we've got wax paper, and we've got watercolor paper. So not too bad and no plastic involved. So very nice. I know y'all have been waiting for this. We're finally ready to start swatching. So I've got them all kind of laid out how I think they're gonna go in my palette. I have my Blick Premier cotton rag paper already laid out with lines so we can judge opacity, and other than getting my desk set up, we're about ready to go. According to the Jackson site, Aquarius is a range of mostly single pigment paints made by Roman Szmal. The range features mostly single pigmented colors. 117 out of 140 colors are monopigment paints. Such a wide range of single pigment paints ensures clean mixing and lets artists create their own color palettes. The range contains a few unique tones such as PY61, PY168, PV37, PBR23, or PBK8. The 34 earth shades are made from natural earths, not synthetic iron oxides, and these unusual pigments are found in many different places around the world. Some unique shades are created exclusively by Roman Szmal, such as Aquarius Green, Przybysz Gray, Ocean Blue, Shadow Violet, Green Gold, and Olive Green. Each color is made with high-quality gum arabic and glycerin, linden honey, distilled water, and pure pigments. Every pan is hand-filled and labeled with watercolor paper. Made with high-quality gum arabic and glycerin, linden honey, distilled water, and pigment. Produced in small batches that are tested for performance qualities. Range contains a selection of unique tones created exclusively by Roman Szmal. Every pan is hand-filled and labeled with watercolor paper, excellent for professionals or beginners, and they are available individually as well as in sets, in half pans, and in full pans, and they are made in Poland. Swatching these kind of reminded me of the Rosa Galleria watercolors that I reviewed at the start of the Student Grade Showdown. Alright, so I've got these colors swatched out. For some of the more granulating colors, I'm going to do the wet into wet test so we can really see that granulation. And I'm going to try to pull in so you guys can see what's going on. For the wet into wet color splits, I'm testing out some of the more granulating colors such as Mineral Violet, Vivianite, Ocean Blue, Aquarius Green, Shadow Violet Light, Shadow Violet, Przybysz Gray, Dark Ochre, Aquarius Brown, and Caput Mortuum. And I found that they have some really pretty granulation, although I probably don't need both Shadow Violet Light and Shadow Violet, as well as Przybysz Gray. Those three are very similar. I obviously bought too many colors in the yellow ochre category, and I'm not sure why I did that. Let's get these pans into our slightly cleaner, but still very much worse for wear palette. I'm going to swatch them so I have a color map, and I made these really neat little watercolor tags that I'm going to swatch them on these for quick and easy color reference. I reordered everything to include both old and new pans, and I am putting them into my old, very beaten up Daily Driver watercolor palette. This is why I can't ever throw or give away anything. It always needs to be reused, right? And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bitty bit about Vivianite or blue ochre. And according to RS, Roman Szmals, it is PB not applicable. It is 8 non-staining, granulating, and semi-transparent. And according to minerals.net, Vivianite occurs in multiple environments, especially organically rich sedimentary deposits such as clays and sandstones. It also occurs in hydrothermal replacement deposits and in phosphate-rich granite pegmatites. And according to gemsociety.org, when mined, Vivianites are colorless or pale green, but their colors darken after exposure to light. So that made me wonder if Vivianite changes color over time, if the watercolor version of Vivianite changes color over time. Now, there are a few other companies that offer Vivianite, such as Daniel Smith and A. Gallo. And according to artiscreation.com, Vivianite can hue shift towards yellow, becoming more greenish, and it may be due to chemical processes. So it's light fast, but may turn yellowish over time due to the effects of the environment or other pigments. So recently I bought a tag punch because after looking at some of the swatch cards for fountain pen supplies, I think it's called the Colo ring, I was like, oh, that would be so cool, but with watercolors. So for my different palettes, I want to start creating these swatch rings, and I punched these out of Blick Studio cotton rag watercolor paper. We have a mass tone swatch at the top, and then we have a gradiated swatch down below. And you can find these kind of tag punches a whole bunch of places. I would have thought I could find them at Michael's. I could not, but I have seen them on Amazon as well as on AliExpress, and I believe you can find them at Hobby Lobby as well. So check the scrapbooking section if this is something that you'd be interested in making for yourself. And then you could either put them in a binder, or if you want to separate them out by brand, which is what I'm going to do, then you can buy those little removable binder rings and then have them sorted by brand. And I don't know if this is necessary, but it sure feels satisfying to make, and it looks really cute too. And it also means you can easily bring your swatches for a particular brand with you. You could, if you had a system set up to display such tags, you could use these to organize your drawers by attaching them to the handles so you know what colors are in that drawer, organized by brand or by drawer. You could also take individual swatches with you, either to, I don't know, show to other people who you're trying to get into watercolor, or when you're going to the store and maybe you're looking to buy a replacement for a color that has since been discontinued, like Daniel Smith's old Quin Gold. If you decide that you want to try this idea for yourself, let me know. If you are a fellow artist with a social media presence and you do this, it would really mean a lot to me if you tag me, because I could definitely use the shout out. But is it necessary? Who knows? Was it fun to do? Yes. And I do realize they sell stamps that you can actually stamp all kinds of pigment information to fill out. I am not into stamping at all, so I don't have the right ink for it, nor do I have the right acrylic mount for it. So not looking to spend that kind of money just yet, but I am aware of it, and I do think those are a super cute idea, and that's probably something I will eventually invest in. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Vivianite, or as it says on, well, it just says Vivianite blue ochre. This is the most expensive pan from Roman Szmals that I own by far. I paid $16.11 for this pan of kind of a bluish gray I guess we could call it an ochre. So the reason I did that, and several other brands offer a Vivianite, is I was just so intrigued by the thought of a blue earth pigment. And I was thinking very literally. I was thinking about like red ochre, like yellow ochre, where you can go dig it up. That's not quite what blue Vivianite is. This typically takes a more mineral and less like sediment form. So according to Roman Szmals, it is PB and then not applicable. It is a historic pigment. It has an 8 in light fastness. It is non-staining. It is granulating, and it is semi-transparent. Vivianite occurs in multiple environments, especially in organically rich sedimentary deposits such as clay and sandstones. It also occurs in hydrothermal replacement deposits and in phosphate-rich granite pegmatites, according to minerals.net. And then when mined, Vivianites are colorless or pale green, but their colors darken after exposure to light, according to the Gem Society. So that makes me wonder if Vivianite, the watercolor, changes color over time. So it is a blue iron earth, and I will share the chemical listing for it in the description, as well as the show notes from this. I know this is not a real unbox and swatch, it's just kind of a haul video, but I did a little bit of research and digging for this one, and that's according to webmineral.com. There are other companies that offer Vivianite, particularly Daniel Smith and A. Gallo. And you guys can find out more information from naturalpigments.com as well as artiscreation.com. And Art is Creation has a huge listing of all kinds of pigments sorted by color. This one is one of the historic ones, and it denotes that there's a huge shift towards yellow, as in it becomes greenish, and that may be due to chemical processes. It's light fast, but it may turn yellowish due to the effects of environment or other pigments. So this one was kind of like a splurge for me. I was really entranced by the idea of a blue ochre, but realistically, it's probably more like a lapis in that it is a mineral that is mined rather than an earth pigment that is refined. So I was just thinking, I had it in my head, a very romantic thought that you could just go somewhere and the dirt would be this bluish color, and that's not really the case. So this was a bit of a splurge. Not necessarily recommending it. It's not really something that I could see getting a lot of use unless you're interested in historic pigments. So another thing I want to point out is I purchased while the sale was going on, but I kind of caught the tail end, so a lot of stuff was sold out. So I was kind of limited with what I could get on sale. I ended up getting Shadow Violet Light, and this is the original Shadow Violet. So it seems like Shadow Violet Light, you can see more of the green and the purple, whereas with the original Shadow Violet, it's almost like a gray color. Speaking of gray, this gray here, which I know is unique to Roman Szmals, it's kind of like Shadow Violet if you subbed out the green for a grayish tone. I can't really see the point of having this as well as this in your collection. Yeah, I say collection, like we're all just collecting art supplies. That's a totally normal thing to collect that I definitely don't do. You guys might also notice I have a lot of almost yellow ochres going on here. We have a natural sienna, we have yellow ochre, and then we have transparent oxide yellow, and all three of them are very, very similar. There isn't really a need for me to have all three. Let's chalk that up to I didn't double check my palette when I was ordering. However, dark ochre does bring something different to the table, and it's kind of like a burnt umber with just a little bit more yellow undertones. Aquarius Yellow is really very pretty, but it really reminds me of Lunar Red Rock from Daniel Smith. So if you already have Lunar Red Rock, you don't really need this one. But Roman Szmals is typically cheaper than Daniel Smith, especially if you just want to see if you like a color or see if you're going to use it. So that might be the way to go. Caput Mortuum also has some really pretty granulation. Usually this would be known as like mummy brown, and horrifically, it used to be made up from ground up mummies. It's a shame that that was done, but it was. I believe this is probably derived from, not ground up mummies. So, because I think that's pretty immoral and probably illegal at this time. But that kind of color, the name of that color just kind of remained. Ocean blue is really, really pretty, especially in granulation. These little swatches don't show the granulation as much as they could. I did kind of a hybrid where we have the mass tone and then we have a gradient shift just to see how it looks with water added. And their mineral violet is really pretty and it has a really strong color separation, especially if you add more water. And you guys know I really like me some super granulating watercolors, so that's really kind of what I was on the lookout for when I was ordering from the sale, and several of the colors that do fall into that category had already been sold out. Aquarius Green is very similar to Daniel Smith's Undersea Green, so if you're looking for maybe a more affordable dupe of it and you want it in a convenience color format, Aquarius Green could be a good way to go. But I'm really looking forward to doing a field test with these. I'm kind of kicking myself for getting so many colors that are so similar when I really could have expanded and pushed more, but I do think I probably have everything I need to be able to do a field test. So before I go, I did want to kind of talk about Rosa Galleria watercolors just a little bit. These I have reviewed for you guys before as part of the student grade showdown. I believe this is considered their professional grade range, and I'm starting to see it in more brick and mortar stores, including David's, so they're becoming more common. I believe, and you guys can correct me, these are either Ukrainian or Polish. My memory is not serving me so well right now, but they are... I am driving myself crazy because I could have sworn I used these. I did a whole field test with these. What? Wait, okay. All right, I know what happened with these. So I got sent 2 sets and I meant to do a giveaway. And the other set is somewhere. Maybe I gave away the other set by accident. Sorry, I did do these. So I promise you can actually see the field test for these. In fact, I can go grab the field test, but whew, boy, that really threw me because I was like, why are these all unopened? What the heck? Anyway, they are all in hole pans. They have custom hole pans, in fact, fairly nice. I was really impressed with the initial unboxing swatch, and then when I did the field test, they were more opaque than I like to paint with. They weren't really a good fit for me. And they just kind of, these two just kind of remind me of each other. Similar opacity. I mean, I'm going to know for sure when I do the field test for this one, but feels like similar opacity, similar, quick to activate, delivers a lot of color very immediately, which a lot of artists really like. Similar price points where they're both very affordable for professional grade watercolors. Once I have a chance to do the field test for this, I can talk about how these handle with more confidence. I mean, I've handled them some, but to me, there's nothing quite like trying to paint a watercolor illustration to really help me figure out what I feel about a watercolor. And I'm really kind of surprised I haven't done the field test for this one yet. So keep an eye out for that. I'm looking forward to it. But I did want to bring up the Rosa Galleria just because at the very least there are some surface similarities. If you guys have ever done a head-to-head comparison, let me know. If you guys would like to see me do a head-to-head comparison, let me know. This was really meant to be just a haul video and kind of a follow-up to my original Roman Szmal's unboxing swatch. So, you know, I'm not like looking to get super in-depth today. I just wanted to show you guys some watercolor and do some swatching and have some fun with it. So I will do the field test at some point, but I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, checking out what I got in the Jackson's Roman Szmal sale, and hopefully this was helpful, useful, and informative. Maybe it answered some questions, maybe it sparked some inspiration, or maybe you just enjoyed hanging out with me today. Regardless of your reason, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you guys again really soon. Bye, guys.